Hello and welcome to the Old Fliers. Pilot Gary Arthur has had many interesting and sometimes scary jobs. Jobs such as power line maintenance, where he flies workmen close to live power lines. Jobs such as hauling aloft parts to assemble towers or taking air conditioners onto high-rise buildings. The skill to do such work requires years of practice. He has flown smaller helicopters right through to the awesome Sikorsky S-64 Sky Crane. He explains how he, as the third pilot in his aircraft, sits facing the rear, looking down upon the load.
This was when they finally offered me a job to do the power line maintenance. It was a very select outfit. I'm very proud to have worked for them because you were handpicked. It was a very, very tight group. Well-known guys, very challenging work, very difficult, but a fantastic time. When you shut down a power line, in those days, and I'm talking about 2000 now, I was told that it's costing about R1 million an hour as long as that power line is de-energized. So they developed this technique called live line, and that guy on the left-hand side there is sitting on lines that are energized. That one looks like a 275,000 volt line, and he's wearing a suit. It's about 25% like a steel mesh. He's got gloves, boots, etc., and like a hood, and it basically creates a Faraday cage around him so he doesn't get shocked. Aside from that, he's not grounded, so he's not getting a flashover of that voltage, but there is a difference between his potential voltage and the line itself. So when he does grab it, he grabs it and he holds on, because if you let go and you grab it again, you're getting shocked again. They learn that lesson very quickly. That guy, or that team on the right-hand side there, those are what we call the dead side, because they are grounded to the tower. And what we're doing there in that particular job is replacing these insulators. What they do is they attach these hot sticks, these tools between them, and they take the tension of the line, and then I can take the insulators out with a helicopter and bring in another set. The whole time that line is energized. That took a lot. I was also working with Arthur Walker there. A very great group of guys. This is another job we did, putting a machine onto the shield wire, onto the ground wire, and it would attach fiber optic cable, called an ad-lash system, which unfortunately didn't work very well because we found out that vultures like the taste of the adhesive, and they would chew the strapping off so the line would fall down. So that's when you're doing this work, and you can see the cables are attached, the strops are attached to hooks under the helicopter, and I'm looking straight down. It's a very different technique to what's used in the military, doesn't transfer at all, and that's your view looking down from the top. So these three guys are being taken to the tower, not to the line. If I took them to the line, they'd be very unhappy with me. This is another aspect of the job. These are called wind spoilers. This is out near Volksrust, which is a very windy area. Now you're attaching these plastic rods onto the shield wire, the ground wire, and the engineers tell me that this prevents the wire from swaying. To me, you're adding drag to it. It never made sense to me, but we ended up doing it anyway. You actually had Teflon tape, blade tape, on the front window of the helicopter. Otherwise, it would rub against the wire and it would damage it. So very, very precise work. I went back into power line flying like an idiot. This is down in Texas. It's a bit of a different way of flying compared to what we did in South Africa. Much more close proximity like this. A lot of concentration, lowering those guys. I worked really hard to give them a stable platform. You can imagine trying to climb off a helicopter onto a power line pole. This has got to be pretty nerve-wracking. So I tried to make it as easy as I possibly could for those guys. This is replacing cross arms, just one of the jobs that we did. There you can see with two guys on the left side, we had to put barbells on the right-hand side as a counterweight. There's about 75 pounds of barbells, I believe. This is another thing we did called the hot seat, that over there. That guy is putting on those dampers. You can see they've been installed there, not on those lines. This is part of a wind turbine project. Can you imagine a windy area they didn't put dampers on the line? So this brings out the nature of that kind of work. It's not very forgiving. This was in Massachusetts, working for a new customer. There's the expression in aviation about all the Swiss cheese, all the holes lining up. Many mistakes were made. And that picture is quite unique, taken by a cop on the ground who was guarding the roads for us. So that's me, the dummy in the front there. That wire is over the tail of the helicopter. I can't see it because those guys are standing in the way. Those are the linemen. They're not our linemen. They belong to a different company. They weren't sure what to look for. I couldn't see past them. Didn't realize something was wrong until that wire snapped and it wrapped around the main road ahead like that. So basically from about 50 feet, we fell. We hit pretty hard. The best thing that came out of it for me was that I fought every foot of that 50 foot. I actually broke the cyclic off. Now, if you guys have ever seen a cyclic on the helicopter, it is a serious, it's not designed to break. I snapped it off. You can in fact see it lying there. I snapped it off at the ground where it goes into the cabin. So the two linemen on the side, the one guy broke his leg, the other guy broke his arm, above and below the elbow. I ended up breaking a couple of vertebrae, some ribs on my spine, punctured lung, I think a broken sternum, which isn't much fun, I can tell you. That's in Alaska, building a power line. Very interesting job. Canada in the winter is no fun. Tony was talking about it earlier. That was about minus 40 degrees. We had to wait for it to warm up to minus 35 before we could work. I did not have a lot of fun there. I lie. I had fun, but the cold is miserable. So it leads me into the next thing, and that is the Sky Crane is very unique. It has what they call the aft seat. It has 3 pilots in it. You normally fly it with just 2, but this position in the back there, you are facing backwards, so you have a fantastic view. And I got to fly that back seat for probably going on about 5 years or so. There were only about 5 of us in the company that did that. It took a lot of training, a lot of different skills. It's not the average thing to do, because you're actually not the captain of the aircraft when you're sitting in the back there. Because you're controlling the helicopter through the autopilot. If the autopilot breaks, you have no control. So the right seat guy is actually in control of the helicopter. But that's a view. So that is Chicago. I was taking off a transformer off the top of that building there. It's 86 floors high. That's Millennium Park down there on the right-hand side. That over there is a cyclic, which normally is between your legs when you're flying any conventional helicopter. In this case, it's a side stick controller, so you have no obstruction in front of you. The collective over there is directly linked to the flight controls, so that works normally. And the only gauges you've got in the back is the load cell, tells you how much is on the hook, and the torque, which tells you how much power you're putting on the helicopter. Very unique. There you can see the pilots in the front seats, and then another view of the back seat in there. This job meant a lot to me. That is Philadelphia. That's a Philadelphia town hall in the background. Being an immigrant to the United States, Philadelphia is kind of close to my heart, and we were lifting air conditioner units. That's a building again in the left-hand photograph. It is just a pretty cool feeling lifting stuff from the street in front of Philadelphia Town Hall. The right picture just shows some power lines that we put up in Canada. That is flying some big lattice structures in Canada. This shows one of the structures. It's been put together, many different pieces. The biggest one that was ever done, I was part of that in Canada, because the snowfall is so heavy in British Columbia. Very, very strong towers. The steel was probably, 4 centimeters thick. It was so heavy, I think it took 32 separate pieces to put that tower together. Finished my time at Erection doing antennas. What you see, you're all familiar with the radio mast like that. That is just the structure. The stuff on the top is the actual antennas. That thing doesn't really contain anything. Those contain all the energy. And with different technology, and antennas break, get struck by lightning, they need to be replaced. It's incredibly demanding. That to me was probably the most stressful job that we ever did in the company. The chances of hurting somebody were really high. So I never slept the night before I did one of these jobs. Just a view of it. That one was down in Florida. And there's the antenna. The orange one is the new one that's been put into place. And you can see the size of the people on the side there that had to bolt it on while you're holding onto it.
I hoped you enjoyed looking over his shoulder. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Donations always welcome.